We are live on Facebook, and it is, what is today, Wednesday? It's all kind of melding in together. My name is Eileen Minogue, and I am the Executive Director for the book Fairies, and I am happy to be here to present with us our reader today, who is Renee Daniel Flagler. Renee is an award-winning writer, adjunct professor, and speaker who is passionate about inspiring women and youth to pursue their passion and purpose. Renee is the author of several novels, including Society Wives, which was just optioned for a film. I am so excited for you. I can't wait for that to come out. And as I said to you before, we knew you when. Her poetry has appeared in Ink and Voices and Spirit Harvest. She has received a Master's of Fine Arts degree in creative writing from the College of New Rochelle. She was the recipient of the graduate program's inaugural Creative Writing Division Award for Excellence in Writing and Commitment to the Profession. That's no shock. She's an advocate of empowering youth and influencing literacy in the United States and abroad. Renee also writes under the romance under the pen name of Nicki Night, which I said sounds so sassy and interesting. Renee resides in New York City, where she currently lives with her husband and children. Today, you're going to read from the Second Wives Club and your favorite book, which is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, by Judy Blume. And for anyone who comments on this live feed, we will enter you into a contest for either an autographed book of the Second Wives Club, yes, or we also have, so we'll have two giveaways. One will be that book, and we have a box set of the Judy Blume fudge books. So they're also autographed, and you're gonna read it's there. Yep, perfect. In full disclosure, Renee and I know each other. We work together. Renee happens to also, in her day job, because you don't have enough else to do, is the executive director for Girls Inc. And she is a phenomenally inspiring woman who is literally changing young ladies' lives every day. If I would love for you to, before you read, if you could just give us a little bit of background about Girls Inc. It's so important, and what you're doing is really just inspirational.
It would be my pleasure. As you know, I always say it's a privilege and it's a pleasure, and I'm honored to be the executive director of Girls Inc. of Long Island. I love this organization with all my heart. I love what they do, their mission. The mission of Girls Inc. of Long Island is to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. And we do amazing programming with girls across our community that covers the gamut from STEM programming, academic enrichment, mind and body, and very important life skills. So we bridge the gap between learning skills and life skills to make sure that girls are able to successfully navigate life now and going forward in the future. And we advocate for girls' rights and gender equity.
That's awesome. We follow you. We work together when we can. I consider you a mentor, and you inspire me every day. So I feel blessed, and equally as blessed to have you here today. So I'm going to bow out, and I'm going to let you do what you can and talk to us about your favorite books.
You got it. All right. So I'm a huge book lover, avid reader, and my relationship with words started like way back when. My earliest memory of how much I love reading and words and all of that stuff starts in the second grade, when I memorized an entire book and then performed it for the school. So obviously that tells you I'm also pretty dramatic. But in any case, today I'm going to read two books. The first one, if you can see this, it's hard to see, is Judy Blume, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This is literally my favorite book from childhood, and it probably is still one of my favorite books, and it's crazy. But, and I get to work with girls, so I'm always recommending that girls read this book. It's such a cool coming to age book for girls who are in like middle school, and it's timeless. Like, I read it when I was like 12 or 13 or 11 or 12. My daughter read it when she was 11 and 12. I've given it to all of my little nieces to read and girls that I mentor. So it's just a fun book. And it talks about all the crazy stuff that you go through when you're in that age range of dealing with hormones and changes to your body and friends and locations and just navigating life from that perspective. So here we go. I'm going to actually start with the first chapter. Again, the author is Judy Blume, and the name of the book is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I know you can't see really good, but you know, these Zoom cameras, but there it is. So here we go. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. We're moving today. I'm so scared, God. I've never lived anywhere but here. Suppose I hate my new school. Suppose everybody there hates me. Please help me, God. Don't let New Jersey be too horrible. Thank you. We moved on the Tuesday before Labor Day. I knew what the weather was like the second I got up. I knew because I caught my mother sniffing under her arms. She always does that when it's hot and humid to make sure her deodorant is working. I don't use deodorant yet. I don't think people start to smell bad until they're at least 12. So I've still got a few months to go. I was really surprised when I came home from camp and found out our New York apartment had been rented to another family, that we owned a house in Farbrook, New Jersey. First of all, I never even heard of Farbrook. And second of all, I'm not usually left out of important family decisions. But when I groaned, why New Jersey? I was told Long Island is too social, Westchester is too expensive, and Connecticut is too inconvenient. So Farbrook, New Jersey, it was, where my father could commute to his job in Manhattan, where I could go to public school, and where my mother could have all the grass, trees, and flowers she's ever wanted. Except I never knew she wanted that stuff in the first place. The new house is on Morning Bird Lane. It isn't bad. It's part brick, part wood. The shutters and front door are all painted black. Also, there is a very nice brass knocker. Every house on our new street looks a lot the same. They're all 7 years old. So are the trees. I think we left the city because my grandmother, Sylvia Simon. I can't figure out any other reason for the move, especially since my mother says grandma is too much of an influence on me. It's no big secret in our family that grandma sends me to summer camp in New Hampshire, and that she enjoys paying my private school tuition, which she won't be able to do anymore because now I'll be going to public school. She even knits me sweaters that have labels sewed inside, made especially for you by grandma. And she doesn't do all of that because we're poor. I know for a fact that we're not. I mean, we aren't rich, but we certainly have enough, especially since I'm an only child. That cuts way down on the food and clothes. I know this family that has 7 kids, and every time they go to the shoe store, it costs a bundle. My mother and father didn't plan for me to be an only child, but that's the way it worked out, which is fine with me because I don't have anybody around to fight. Anyhow, I figure this house in New Jersey business is my parents' way of getting me away from grandma. She doesn't have a car. She hates buses, and she thinks all trains are dirty. So unless grandma plans to walk, which is unlikely, I won't be seeing much of her. Now, some kids might think, who cares about seeing a grandmother? But Sylvia Simon is a lot of fun, considering her age, when I happen to know is 60. The only problem is she's always asking me if I have a boyfriend and if they're Jewish. Now that is ridiculous because number one, I don't have boyfriends. And number two, what would I care if they were Jewish or not? That is chapter 1 of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. My favorite book. So that was just the introduction, but it gets juicier and juicier. And if you are 11 or 12 or 13 or 10, and if you have an 11, 12, 13, or 10-year-old in your family, get them a copy of Are You There, God? Is Me, Margaret. It'll actually keep them from asking you some of these crazy biological questions that these young people ask you, because Margaret talks about that stuff in her book. And not in a bad way, in a funny, cool way. So anybody who knows Are You There, Margaret, and have read it, raise your hand. I know out of every line in the book, you definitely know we must increase. And I'll stop there. I won't even finish it. So I think I knocked something over. while I was doing We Must Increase Our, and I'll stop there. Anyway, favorite book, get it for the girl in your life. I absolutely love this book. Now I'm going to actually read a little bit from my book, Second Wives Club. So I have several books as Renee Daniel Flagler, about 6 of them. Mountain High, Valley Low, Misguided, In Her Mind, which is the sequel to Mountain High, Valley Low. I have Raging Blue and Still Raging, which is a series, as well as Second Wives Club, which is this one, and Society Wives, which is the one that was optioned for film that Eileen was talking about a little early. This is the latest book. This is the most recent one that came out on June 30th. So if you don't have a copy, snag you a copy. It's available in print, of course, and ebook with Kindle. Now, she also told you that I write as Nicki Night, and that's romance. Work with Harlequin on that. So here's one of those Nicki Night books. So this one is called Diamonds for the Holidays. If you can see the title, it's so hard to see the stuff by Nicki Night. Diamonds for the Holidays. This one is Sealed with a Kiss. So this is a story where it's really great that you get 2 stories in one by Donna Hill and one by me, Nicki Night. And it's a great read, gets good reviews. You'll really enjoy it. And if you love romance, I would say go for it. All right, so Second Wives Club. What is this story all about? So the inspiration for Second Wives Club came a couple of years ago when I saw something that says 60% of all households are blended families, meaning, people who have gotten together and either had kids outside the marriage prior to their getting together, or, have been divorced and gotten together with other people in any way, shape, or form. It's mom, dad, children, stepchildren, all of the great stuff. And it's not just about the children, but it's also about the families. You got kids who now have 3 houses to go to on Christmas because of their mom, dad, and their maybe a step parent or whatever. And so this story is, I'll read the back for you. Second Wives Club is a journey through the hills and valleys of blended families, self-fulfillment, and challenges that can turn an I do into what did I do? Will Carrie, Lyric, and Paige find happiness despite the secrets they harbor? Will any of these couples succeed in pinning down that elusive happily ever after? So 3 characters, Lyric Delaney, Carrie Rhodes, and Paige Thompson are who the 3 people that the story is being told to. And each of them have a very interesting or different dynamic to their blended family. So one wife, each of them are their husband's second wife, and each of them have a different situation. One of the wives, she has to deal with an ex that just does not want to give up, or, who does not want to be kicked out of the picture. One of them, the ex-wife and the current wife, is like the best of friends. And then the last one, the second wife, is half the first wife's age. So how interesting is that? In any case, are you ready to hear something? I'm gonna give you a little bit more on the Second Wives Club. Here we go. All righty. I'm going to introduce you to this book by starting with Paige. Paige, the Vixen, as we so endearingly named her, had already called me 3 times since the last gala last Thursday. She wanted to make sure that we weren't going to flake out on her invitation to lunch, but due to Carrie's crazy work schedule, we had to wait for the following weekend. Lyric, 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 I forced myself to repeat her name. Carrie and I had referred to her as the Vixen so much that I didn't want to make the mistake in saying that to her face. As I parked my practical Toyota Murano in front of the Italian bistro, the Vixen, Lyric, chose, I wondered what she would look like today. I was glad Rick wasn't with me, as usual. I was the first to arrive and figured Carrie would be the last, but to my surprise, I looked into my rearview mirror and there she was, pulling in behind me in her BMW. That made me wonder, what kind of car did the Vixen drive? Hey girl, Carrie jumped out looking trendy and cute in a yellow leather jacket over a white shirt, jeans, and black booties. We exchanged friendly kisses and headed to the restaurant. The spring breeze was too cool for outdoor dining, so we asked for a booth near the window so we could enjoy the sunlight. Okay, What are we in for? Carrie asked as we scooted into the booth. You know she called me again this morning to make sure I was coming. I looked towards the door and then swept my eyes around the restaurant to make sure that she hadn't arrived. She has called me every day since the gala the other night. Girlfriend needs a friend for real. Carrie shook her head. Through my peripheral, I saw a flash of red, super shiny sports car. I'm not that well versed on cars, so I couldn't tell you what kind it was, but I knew it was expensive. I think this is her, I said to Carrie. Sure enough, the Vixen whipped that little sports car into a space in front of my crossover. When she stepped out, I swore my sight switched to slow motion as she emerged from that car like a movie star, flipped her long hair behind her shoulder, and adjusted her sunglasses. I'm sure her handbag and shoes cost enough to buy my Murano outright. Suddenly, I felt underdressed in a drab pair of mom jeans, plain shirt, and flats. I felt the need for an immediate makeover. When had I become so practical? Lyric filled the entrance of the restaurant with her presence, and I waved her over. Hey, ladies, Lyric was loud. I'm so glad you made it. She paused. Wait, she looked around. This is where they sat you? Hold on. She turned away before we could return her greeting. I wasn't sure what was happening, but I remained quiet to see how this would play out. Carrie's silence and the look on her face told me that she was thinking the same thing. Emilio, can we have our regular seats? Anything for you, Ms. Delaney. Come on, ladies. Lyric followed the young waiter without bothering to look back to make sure we were behind her. Carrie picked up her bag as she scooted off the booth. The waiter led us to the table behind glass partitions and walls lined with bottles of wine. That's more like it, Lyric said as she sat. Please bring my favorite. One white, one red. Thanks. When Emilio nodded and exited, Lyric turned her attention toward us. I wasn't sure which one you like, so I ordered one of each, she said, referring to the wines. I'm a red girl, Carrie said. I like white, I said. Good, you're both covered. This is one of our favorite places. Both Nate and I love it. I can tell you come here often. You know the staff by name, I see. I have a place like that near work, Carrie said. Somehow the conversation started with work and Lyric asked what I did again. I wish she hadn't asked me. I was feeling a little insecure, which surprised me. I cleared my throat. I have a master's degree in accounting. I don't know why I started with that. I guess I was suddenly feeling insecure about not working, but right now, I'm a stay-at-home mom. So I am going to stop there. That was Paige, who is one of the 3 women who are part of the Second Wives Club. And then you got to also meet, just from that perspective, Lyric, who is the one that you probably guessed is half of her husband's ex-wife's age. She's actually a few years older than his twins, which she refers to as the evil twins. And then there is Carrie. And Carrie is the woman who is actually pretty good friends with her husband's ex until something happens and she starts questioning the authenticity of their friendship. Well, that's it. Second Wives Club. That's all I'm going to give you today. Second Wives Club. Check it out. And my fave, Judy Blume, Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret. It's an absolute pleasure to support the Book Fairies, which is one of my favorite nonprofits, and Eileen and Amy to do this with you all today. I hope you enjoyed my reading. I hope you had a little fun. I hope you got a little bit of a teaser, and I hope you're going to go out and buy Judy Blume's book. And I hope you're going to go buy my book, Second Wives Club. So I see we have a question here. So Eileen, I don't know if she's going to come back or if I should just go ahead and start answering the questions, but I guess I'll start answering the questions. It says here, I love how inspirational you are. Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Should I read this question?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So it says, I love how inspirational you are. What do you say to people who feel like they've lost their passion or purpose during the pandemic? I would say, find it, go for it. Go. Don't ever let your passion go. Like, hold on to that. I mean, that can change your days, and it's part of your purpose. So it's not going to go away. It's going to nag you. And maybe, depending on what your situation is in the pandemic, it might even be an opportunity for you to indulge your passions even more. If you love reading, then maybe you got more time to read. If you love working with people, then maybe it's an opportunity to find other ways that you can work with people so that even after this is over, you can indulge your purpose even more. Never give up on your purpose. Never give up on your dreams. Never quit them. Never quit your passion.
Love it. The next question we have is, out of all of the books published, why did you choose to read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret?
So I love reading, and I have loved reading since I was a child. I told you my first situation with words is like reading a whole, memorizing a whole book. And who does that?
I chuckled when you said you're a little dramatic. I chuckled.
Just a little dramatic, because you know me.
I do.
So, and can you imagine, as an avid reader who loved like libraries, books, you see this library I have behind me. I love books. I love looking at books. I love smelling books. And it sounds creepy. It looks a little crazy, but I just love books. I love everything about it, reading them, holding them, all that good stuff. So can you imagine how many books I've read? I can't imagine myself, how many books I may have read over my entire life. So, and even some of my favorite books, and I love them, sometimes it's hard for them to like rise to the top for me to remember them because I've read so many, and it doesn't diminish any of the books that I've read. But out of years and years and years, because I'm no young chick. I mean, I might look like a young chick, but I'm not that young. So out of all these years, this book has always stuck with me. And not only did I love it then, but I've reread it as an adult and still enjoyed it. And I work with youth for a living, and there's so many great life lessons in this book for young people. And I think it's just a cool read to not only to just like allow them to escape, but to just give them some insight on some of the craziness that girls deal with, in certain age groups. It's fun. It touches on a lot of real issues and stuff. And it's just a good book. And plus I like God. I'm a God's girl. I'm a child of God. So, and then this book doesn't, deal with God in any scary ways. So it's kind of fun.
Can you imagine not having books in your home when you were a child?
Not at all. Actually, I used to steal my sister's books, which were at the time that I was reading them, I was probably too young to read some of them. But yeah, I didn't get in trouble.
That's what we say all the time. For anybody who is an avid reader, if you can't imagine not having a book in your home, then you should be supporting us, because we're working to reverse that for so many of the kids in the areas. So, and
there are kids who don't have books in their home, and the thought of it just makes me sad.
It's very sad. Why did you choose to write your books under the pen name?
So most of the books, so when I started my writing career, I started them under Renee Daniel Flagler. That's what I wrote this one under. So it's this horrible thing you can't see. But anyway, and when I decided to start writing romance, I didn't want to confuse my readership. Because they knew to expect a certain type of book from me. So it was really more of a marketing decision to create a different pen name or persona for the romance books, because then they knew that, when they picked up a Nicki Night book, they knew what they were getting.
Right.
If they picked up a Renee Daniel Flagler book, they knew what they were getting. So I wanted to be sure that, and I have some people who read both, and then I have people who only read Renee Daniel Flagler because that's what they like. And I have some folks who only read, Nicki Night. And there's a couple of people who I've met, through one or the other, who kind of crossed over and said, okay, you write that also? Well, I like your writing. I'll try that too. But it was really to distinguish the genres.
Understood. Good answer. Where do you get your inspirations?
Ooh. All over. It could be people's lives, situations, character traits, like, greed, people who are greedy. It's like, what would life be for them? And I just turn situations over. I mean, the favorite thing for an author to ask themselves is, what if? Well, what if this happened? What if I did this? Well, what if I threw that into the mix? How would this person respond? How would that change this person's life? And sometimes actually snatch ideas right from the headlines. Like, wow, this must be interesting. I wonder what it would be like to actually to craft a story around that. So Second Wives Club really came from the fact that I read an article that talked about the fact that there was more households in America that were blended families than organic families. So, I come from an organic family. I'm the baby of 6. We all have the same mom and dad. 6 kids. Those days are over. My parents didn't watch a lot of TV. But these days, you know, a lot of families are blended families, and a whole different set of dynamic comes into play when it's a situation like that.
Yeah. I'm the youngest of 9, so I come from the same type of
Exactly. You know,
eight girls and 1 boy. It was quite interesting.
we're 5 girls, 1 boy.
Oh, so we really do have a lot in common. How do you help young girls maintain their confidence once they become preteens?
Oh, in so many ways. So I work with girls both inside and outside of Girls Inc. So I love with Girls Inc. because we have amazing programming that speaks to a lot of issues that girls face, as well as give them the skills. So our mind-body programming, we have media literacy programming, all of that works to talk to and tackle and help girls come up with strategies of dealing with things like social media and body image and confidence and looking at the media in certain ways and paying attention to how they're portrayed in the media and being able to like decode that and be critical and say, you know, is this good for me? Is this bad for me? Are they trying to influence me? Are they informing me? Are they educating me? And things like that. So with Girls Inc., it's through the work that we do in our curriculum. Outside of Girls Inc., it's through programs that I participate in. Civic organizations that I'm a part of, where part of our purpose is really to advocate for or support young women or young girls, as well as women. I do it through writing. I actually have a young adult book coming out. I do it through sessions and working with girls and working as a mentor and working with different youth organizations and things like that. So I do as much as I can.
Yes, you never stop. You're like the ever ready bunny. How would you like to hang out with your characters from the Second Wives Club? Are they modeled after people you know?
I've never admit that. You know what? It's really not necessarily people I know, but people everybody knows. You know, like everybody knows, and especially women who are in a certain age group. A lot of people relate to Paige because they know what it's like to be in a certain age group and start to look at yourself and go, when did I become so practical? Or when did I become like, wait a minute, these are mom jeans. These are really not all that cute, you know, and you start kind of questioning things and you have to find yourself again and kind of fall in love with yourself all over again. I think every woman goes through some aspect of like redefining themselves or evolving, and then you don't realize you've evolved until you've gotten into your next evolution and you're like, wait a minute, where's that person I used to be? You know, or like, who is this? And do I like this person or do I not like this person? So a lot of people really relate with her. She has, you know, she's very well educated. She and her husband are doing pretty well. They made a decision for her to stay home for a while the kids, you know, while she raises her daughter, and then at a certain point go back. But now she's like, you know, okay, I'm home, but I'm not feeling like I'm doing meaningful things. I'm not, you know, I know we agreed to a certain amount of time, but, you know, I'm really ready to go back into the workforce. I'm really looking at myself and wondering, what am I doing here? And, you know, what can I do more of? So Lyric is a hot mess. She's fun and dramatic. So I don't know if I want to be close friends with Lyric or just be able to kind of see her from a distance because she's a mess. It might be to be close friends with her because then I get to see her crap up close and personal.
You just want to kind of observe and watch it going on.
Exactly. But, you know, being close might make it a little more fun, a little more edgy.
That's great.
Carrie's a professional woman. She reminds me a lot of myself. She's kind of practical and just really cool to hang out and really down to earth. So I wouldn't mind like being all these girls' friends.
That's great. You're a mother, a wife, executive director of a charity, an author. Any advice on how you juggle it all?
Yes, I definitely would say that because I've always been a busybody. So I worked full time. I went to school to get my master's degree, and I attended nail school all at the same time. So I was learning to do nails. My sister had a salon. I would work in her salon. I would go to school on certain days, work in the salon on other days. You know, I used to do real estate also while holding a full-time job. So now I'm part of civic organizations. My big thing is community and give back. So I'm involved in a lot of community efforts. I have Girls Inc. I have my writing career. But what I try to do is whatever area, what I call my boxes. So when I'm in the Girls Inc. box, I'm fully attentive to Girls Inc. and the needs of Girls Inc. and the support that Girls Inc. needs and doing what Girls Inc. needs. And when I get out of the Girls Inc. box and jump into the author box, I'm focused on being an author. I'm focused on writing. I'm focused on my career as a writer, trying to promote and do whatever authors do, travel, this, that, the other. When I'm being a mom, I really do push Girls Inc. and being an author aside, and I focus on my family. I want to be there for my daughter 100%. I want to be there for my husband as a wife 100%. I want to be there for my household 100%. So, and they don't consider it robbery that I have these other interests, and they give me space to be those other parts of me that I need to be. But I learned a long time ago that I'm not really that great at multitasking. So I compartmentalize. And when I'm in each of those areas, I fully focus and give that my 100% attention at the time.
Wow. And your family does sacrifice because you do so much, but if you're able to compartmentalize it and make sure you're giving them the time they need, they get it. And they know that this other stuff is feeding you as well, which makes you better for them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna try my best.
Yes. Where do you write down your ideas for your new books? In a special notebook, in your iPhone, scraps of paper, napkin?
So I'll be the first to say that ideas are very disrespectful. They come at any given time, in the middle of meetings, in the middle of church services, in the middle of the night. They really don't care. They'll snatch your attention, and you kind of, so I compartmentalize for the most part, but sometimes the lines do get a little blurry and you got to put them back in order, but they come all kinds of different ways because I get inspired by so many things. So I'll make notes in my phone. I'll email myself. A lot of times I'll email myself and put the title of the book. If I have an idea for a certain book, I'll use the subject line as the title of the book, and then I'll just write whatever came to mind and just send that off so that I don't forget it. So that's kind of, and having my phone is definitely helpful because I'll make things, I'll put notes in, I'll email myself, or I'll say things, I'll send text messages to myself and things like that, but sometimes it's hard.
Well, last but not least is, again, I personally find you inspirational, and I know Amy, our founder, finds you to be an inspirational mentor. Would you leave us with a message that you would like to give us?
Yes, I love Amy.
Mm-hmm. Who doesn't?
So my inspirational message, this is actually on my website at reneedanielflagler.com. It may be on there. So I have two favorite quotes, and I think they kind of tie in together. So this one quote is, success doesn't come by spontaneous combustion. You have to set yourself on fire. So that's Arnold Glasgow. I love that quote. That I live by that. That's Arnold Glasgow. But my version of that is opportunity is not going to come on your door and knock very nicely and say, hey, how are you? I'm here. So you got to run out into the street and tackle that sucker and make it happen.
I love it. I love it. Well, you've been phenomenal. We're so grateful to you for all that you do. Continued best luck with all of your writings and the movie that's coming out. And of course, no doubt, you are changing lives every day with Girls Inc. It's phenomenal. And I know you know how important it is to have sponsors that help us out with these events. And we want to thank Marlon Security, Investors Bank, Jovia Financial, and of course, Sereni and Associates Public Accountants. They are really the ones that get behind us.
Love those guys.
You know that.
Yes.
So we just want to give them a little thank you and a shout out for them today. And
Wonderful.
We hope you'll come back next year. And when your movie comes out, remember us, and we'll have you back on.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.